So during this period of time, we are going to be facing inevitable levels of stress and anxiety, along with the really beautiful moments of deeper connection and being able to cope. Now, this isn't going to be relevant for everyone. I know that there's so many different ways in which people are responding, and many different situations people are in quarantine and lockdown modes. But I'm just trying to share some of the resources that have been popping up in my sessions with clients this week. So one of the things that clients have been finding helpful is me talking about two states that they might be in at different times throughout their week or throughout their day when they're at home and in quarantine or social distancing or self-isolation measures. So the two states are I'm okay and I'm not okay. So one thing that we want to remember is that it's okay to not be okay. The current climate and all of the different massive acute day-to-day changes are going to send us into spaces and places that are fearful or panicked, or we get frustrated or angry, or we can feel quite overwhelmed. So when I say not okay, it's not necessarily that I think it's not okay, but that's what people are saying to me. I'm not okay. Sometimes I feel like I'm not okay. And it's like, well, yeah, no, sometimes you are going to feel like you're not okay, but it is actually okay to not feel okay. So these two states are going to be there. You'll be oscillating over here where you'll think, okay, I can do this. I've got the tools, I've got the coping, I've got the resources, I can get through this. One thing we do know is that what will significantly increase outcomes when it comes to any massive change like this is having tools and coping strategies to get through it. So you can have two people exposed to the same trauma, and one person might develop PTSD and the other person won't. And one of the most significant protective factors around whether you do or you don't is that you have tools and coping strategies to understand it, but also to cope with some of the more challenging impacts that it has on you. So between these two states, the I'm not okay state, what we need to make sure is that when you're in the I'm not okay state, you're not engaging in impulsive, compulsive behaviours that will make you even less okay. So Googling or frantically running around trying to get everything done, or making all of these phone calls, or speeding up and trying to solve all of your problems all at once. Because in this state, you're not really at capacity anyway. Your brain is significantly compromised. So when you're in your I'm not okay state, it's usually a fear-based or stress-based state, and your frontal lobe is significantly compromised because it's your limbic system that's really taking over. So this guy's flared up, this guy's shut down, and your ability to think clearly through all of that, and your ability to plan and to organize and to even think about the bigger picture is really, really compromised. So, and especially when this guy is going off that fear-based state, we're primed to think more negatively. We're primed to think more catastrophically because when that fear-based part of us goes off, it's that instinctual survival mechanism. So we're better off when that's going off to think, oh my God, that tiger could kill me, even though it might not, because it increases our safety. So one of the things we need to remember is that in this state, we don't do anything. We literally just focus on our body to try and get this to open up and that to shut down. So drop tools. Don't keep on hammering away at work. Don't keep on hammering away at that conversation with your wife or your husband. Don't keep on hammering away at the kids who aren't doing anything at home. Just step back and do something to recalibrate and to look after your body. So to get from this state to this state, you don't do heaps of stuff here. All you're doing is you're going into your body and you're grounding. And there's lots of ways you can do that. You can do that with breath work. You can do that with tapping. You can do that with just getting outside and getting some fresh air and doing a lap around the block or around the house if it's safe enough for you to do so. Sometimes if it's an extreme I'm not okay state, so I tell people to number it, like, am I at a 5? Okay, well, if I'm at a 5 out of 10, I can probably just take a few deep breaths and reduce that down to a 3 or a 4. We're barely ever going to be at 0 at the moment. There's going to be a latent level of stress and anxiety. There's a collective level of stress and anxiety going on. So we want to be able to Remember that there is a normal level that's going on for everyone at the moment. But over here, what we're going to do is to reduce that stress and anxiety. Say it's at a 5, you might do some breath work, you might do a little bit of tapping, you might have a cup of tea and go and sit outside. If it's at about a 6 or a 7, that's more heightened. You might need to do something more significant, self-soothing, some sort of sensory modulation where you're literally changing your physical environment to calm yourself down. And people are often developing sensory toolkits at home. If you want to know more about that, we can tell you about that too in other sessions. If it's at about an 8 or a 9 or a 10, that's a really high level of I'm not okay. So then this is like fully on fire. It's not just flared up, it's like full bang. And that's where you're going to have massive arguments, or that's where you're going to have a big moment of overwhelm, or that's where you're going to be feeling really distressed. So in those moments, there's not a huge amount of thinking your brain can do. It's just look after your body and ground. It might be just having someone next to you to hold you. It might be a cold shower. It might be something that just really shifts your body in that moment and gets you out of that real kind of danger zone of stress. Once you get it down under that 5, around a 3 or a 4, that's your body calming enough so that you can kind of enter into this state. And in this state, the I can do this, I'm okay state, that's when you can start to think about, okay, what's that next step with work? Or how am I going to do the rest of the day with the kids? Or how is my partner and I going to navigate this conversation? You were not able to do it over there. Now, the way we can kind of keep ourselves here more readily, that I am okay state, is the basics. So making sure you sleep, making sure you eat balanced, and making sure you move. So those 3 things will significantly compromise your brain's ability to stay away from this state if you're not sleeping well, if you're not eating well, and if you're not moving. So if you're not doing those 3 things, you are more susceptible to this occurring. Like, I know that just 2 nights lack of sleep for me, this part of my brain is much more active. I can be more irritable, I can be more stressed, my thinking is much more negative. So over here, we want to look after the basics because that gives you the foundation for your mental health through this period of time. Then on top of that, it's about, we know that this is a challenging time, but we're probably not going to feel our happiest ever. I mean, if you do, that's great, but it's a pretty high and lofty expectation to have total harmony and peace and calm in your house. But what you can do is think about this space being a place that you navigated as close to your values as you possibly can. So that's our greatest definition of happiness that we have in modern psychology, and that is living according to our values, or as close to our values as we possibly can. So for example, my top 3 values over here are health, community, and grounding. So every day am I engaging in behaviours that uphold those values for me. For community, it might be having that group Zoom session with my friends, or calling my grandmother and seeing if she's okay. For health, it might be that yoga session that I did this morning and just going for a walk around the block. For grounding, I have particular grounding exercises that I do, and I know they significantly, for me personally, help me to stay in this I am okay space. If you take those things away, I'm not grounding, I'm not eating healthy, I'm not staying connected with people, then this really diminishes my ability to stay in this space. If I'm not sleeping and I'm arguing with people, then that's going to put me over into this space more. So we need to strengthen this space. And when we're in this space, go back to our body and ground so that we're much more ready to go over here. The other thing is that it's very natural and normal that everybody's life will look a bit like this at the moment. So that means that you will naturally oscillate between those 2 spaces. There is nothing wrong with going here. You haven't failed to maintain your positivity. It's just a very natural state that's going to pop up every now and then. So expect that it will, and when it does, do what you can to get back into your body and calm your body down. and then do as much as you can when you're over here to be able to strengthen that state throughout this period of time. When you're here, don't judge yourself. Don't try and force yourself to be positive. Don't try and, be or do all of these things over here. Just acknowledge that this is a difficult moment. It's about a 7 right now, and what I need to do is ground. What I need to do is get outside. It's about a 5 right now. I can feel myself getting up there. Before I get too high, I'm going to take a few breaths and take a break away from what I'm doing. And then when you're over in this space, make that phone call, do that thing, and get back on track. So I hope this has been helpful.